Hello and thanks for watching. This is going to be a demonstration of how to assemble our knife blanks with your chosen handle material. What I'm doing first is flattening. The handle I'm using is a mix-up, kind of segmented handle made from our maple burl, dyed maple burl, stabilized. What I've done is I've flattened it, and now I'm taping it together so it holds in the same position together so that I can round the fronts. I'm using my Vever 2x72 inch grinder here, but you really can start with a 1x30. I mean, I did. It's just, I paid for this, so I'm using it in the demonstration. I may later do one on a 1x30, but it's relatively the same process other than the arc bits that I have to grind circles easily, rounded corners. What I'm doing on this slide is I'm making registration marks. This helps me line up the scales the same whenever I go to epoxy the second scale onto the blank. Now you're going to scuff up the tang. It's the full tang blank. You're going to scuff it up with some sandpaper. It really helps the epoxy to adhere. The next thing you're going to do is mix up epoxy. I like to use Forge Bond. I'm going to have a link to that on Amazon in the description of this video, and also I'll link these stir sticks that I like to use. They're actually for cleaning PCs and things like that, but they work well for me for this, so I'll link that as well. So here I spread the epoxy on the back of my scale, and then I slide the scale into position and clamp it, and I use a napkin. I like to use the blue shop towels. I'll link those as well. So you're going to let it set for a few hours and then unclamp it. The clamps I also got from Amazon. I'll provide a link for that also. After a few hours, your handle should be secure enough to go ahead and drill your first set of pinholes. You want to drill through from the first handle before you glue on the second handle. This is very important so that you can locate your pinholes back through the other way later on. Once you've drilled those holes, you can come back with your epoxy and go ahead and start on your other handle. I've showed the process a little better here so that you can see the lining up of the other handle. You want to get your glue up to the first pins, no further really. It reduces the amount that squeezes out the front that you'll have to clean. But don't worry if a little bit does, just make sure you have a shop towel handy. Okay, what I'm doing there is I'm lining it up behind the glue and then sliding forward. And that makes sure I have enough epoxy on the back without too much squeezing out. Then I'm looking at my registration marks, looking at the front of my handle to make sure everything lines up the way I want it to. Looking at the sides, make sure everything's registering the way I want it to. Take your time here because this glue does not set fast. You can use faster set epoxy, but I find that although it gets done quicker, it doesn't hold as well as the slow set. And once you've got it in position, get your first clamp on, look around at everything. If you've got a helper, it's great. My wife helped me in this video. It's really good to have a helper when you're doing your glue up. Helps keep everything in line. You can keep a tight grip while they set your clamps for you. But we don't always have that, so you can do it with your own hands as well. You don't always have to have help, but it's good too. Now you're gonna have to let it set for a few hours, come back and start on your pins. Once it's set long enough, you can take your clamps off, check it, make sure it's not moving on you. You definitely do not want it to move. Take your time, don't get in a hurry. Let the glue set for a while. So the first thing you'll do is drill your holes back through. You see where we located them the first time. That's why we do that, so that it's really easy to come back and find where your pinholes are. Once you've got those drilled, you'll begin getting your pins prepped, and we'll go from there. Okay, this is the 3 32nd inch pin material available on our website. It's what we use with this stagger blank. When I cut it into, I used I think 6 pinholes. Going to cut it into however many pinholes you use. You don't have to use all the pinholes. It's your choice which pinholes you drill. But you drill however many for the pinholes you had, and then you're gonna kind of sand a point onto it. That's what I like to do. Makes it a whole lot easier to wedge it through. You sometimes may want to sand around the sides of your pin just a little bit, but I want a tight fit. Then I like to put epoxy on the pins, put them into place, and then peck them through with a ball peen hammer. And once I've done that, I like to brad them. The longer these pins, the more likely they are to bend. You see I just bent one there. Just bend it back with your finger. They're small enough, and keep hammering. So once you've got all of your pins through, and you're happy with where they're at, you make sure they're sticking out a little bit at least on the other side. You don't want that point to be inside your handle area. You want to make sure that there's flat, at least a little bit of flat on the other side. Take them to the sander, sand them to about the length you see in this video. Put them on a hard surface, and this is what I was calling bratting or peening. Basically you're making the brass swell up on the inside, and it gets a better bite inside your handle. Helps hold that on a lot better for you. You make sure you get a good, I do like 10 to 12 hammer strikes on each side on a hard surface, and that'll swell those up really good. That in a combination with the epoxy, and then sand them flat to your handle. Once you've got them flat, you can go to a bandsaw if you have one. It's ideal. If you don't, you can take it straight to a sander, but you'll do a lot more sanding. It's worth investing in a small bandsaw. Here we are on the bandsaw, cutting off any excess handle material. Now that we've flattened our sides, so it'll slide easy on the surface of the bandsaw. Just take your time, cut as much off as you can. Try not to cut into your metal at all. If you cut big enough chunks off the bandsaw, you can save the excess pieces to use in other projects as well. Makes good segmented scales. You can find the liner material on our website. You can use it as a spacer behind your scales, but you can also use it to glue together segmented scales like I did here. I put this together on a black spacer, G10 liner, from our website. And here is what I bandsawed off of mine. From here we'll go on over to the grinder. I'm going to use my 2x72 bever. I'm really happy with it for the price. It cost me about $1,000, maybe a little more after the taxes and fees, but it's been worth it to me. Other grinders like this will cost you upwards of $2,000-$3,000. So as a beginner, somebody getting started, I highly recommend the bever. It will have hiccups. I've had some hiccups with mine. Contact wheel being a little bit wobbly, a few little things, but it's not terrible. It's for the prices. It's really, I'm just comparing it to the Bader. Honestly, it's worth the money. But I'm using the little contact wheel, small wheel here to get my arcs done really well. This blank, it's phenomenal to have the arc grinding capability. But again, you can do this on a 1x30 from Harbor Freight just as well. But it will take you longer, and you will have a little bit different sanding pattern. I like to keep mine in line with the blade, but with a 1x30, you're gonna have, it's gonna be perpendicular to the blade. After you get your profile finished, you'll move on to sanding a little bit of a radius on each side, or however you choose to do your handle. I mean, everybody's got their own style. I've got a couple different styles I do. One, I like to have a good palm swell. The other, I like to have a good arc to it. And this one's just kind of a basic rounded finish so that I can show you the basic. I just radius each side with this model. Just keep sanding until you're happy with. I like to do 120 grit belts first, and then I like to move to 400. I usually don't go further than 600 grit. I use 120, 400, and then 600 grit. Once you're finished with the belt sander, you're going to move on to hand sanding. This is where you guys with 1x30 can kind of straighten up your grinds on the tank. This is where you can get those running in line. You just have to sand longer after hand sanding. If you have a Harbor Freight polishing wheel, it'd be great. It's ideal. You can finish up your polish on your blade and your handle. Make it shine. All materials don't polish the same. You have to be aware of that. Stabilized woods like we sell at Stormwind Designs, Stormwind Knife Supply, those woods will polish up a whole lot better than just raw wood. Stabilized wood is full of resin, and that resin really gets a good shine with the polish. And again, thank you for watching our tutorial. We have links available on our website, stormwindknifesupply.com. If you're interested, please check out our site. We're a small family business. And please do like, share, and comment on our videos anywhere you see them. Share our pages. We really appreciate any and all support. Without further ado, here's the finished product.